Yo. Welcome back to Son of a Preacher Man. Soap Man in the house. Yo, check this out. In my last episode, I started off talking about Samuel. And Samuel, in case you need a reminder, was the last great prophet and judge of Israel. And he anointed King Saul to be the first king of Israel. And I started off talking about their relationship and how it was dangerous ground trying to check the king. You know, it was dangerous business putting the king in his place. And Samuel seemed to do it quite well. He did it all the time. Every time King Saul messed up, Samuel was there to condemn him, to rebuke him, to put him in his place. He was like an old man dragging a kid around by his earlobe. But when Samuel went to anoint David to be the new king, he did it in secret because he knew that his life was on the line and that King Saul could have easily put him to death. So, you know, I was trying to show that relationship between Samuel and King Saul and how that the power shifted between them. But make no mistake, it's dangerous business putting a man in his place who can have you killed because he is king. And so the last episode was all about Nathan. He was the prophet at the time of King David's reign. And Nathan was the man it befell upon. The duty was his to put King David in his place. But the thing is, when it came to the moment of truth, where Nathan puts David in his place, because remember, Nathan, you know, he's thinking about how he wants to tell the king that he's dead wrong for what he did to his soldier Uriah, and that David had Uriah killed for his wife. And so I just did it again. Nathan is the one who has to come to David and put him in his place. But in my last episode, when it came to the moment of truth, where I said Nathan, because Nathan used this elaborate scheme, he made up this story about a rich man and a poor man, and how the rich man stole the poor man's one lamb. And David said, "Who is this man? Bring him before me. I'm going to have him killed, and he's going to have to restore the poor man fourfold for his lack of pity." And when it came to the moment of truth where I was supposed to say, and Nathan says, "It's you, David," I said Samuel. Because I started the episode off talking about Samuel. He was on my mind. And in this picture, this is a really old dude, and it just made me think Samuel. So, big, huge blunder on my part in the last episode. And I got all into it. "It's you, guy, it's you." And I said Samuel's name. So, blunder on Soap Man's part is one of the only times you will ever catch me lacking, which is why I hurried up and admitted my fault before anybody else could accuse me of being less than polished. Okay, so it wasn't Samuel. Nathan gets the props for putting David in his place. Last episode, I said, I think 2 or 3 times Samuel, where I should have said Nathan. Speaking of which, in my last episode, Nathan puts David in his place, and he curses David. And David shows you how to eat humble pie. He says, "I'm wrong. I've sinned against the Lord." And Nathan proceeds to lay the smack down and pronounce curse after curse upon this man. My mama don't like the fact that I use the word curse, but in my opinion, that is exactly what he does. He curses David. Let me know what you think in the comment sections. Is this a curse or not a curse? Anywho, we in the book of 2 Samuel. Ladies and gentlemen, in case you ain't figured it out, you dealing with what you experiencing right now is the inimitable, the uncanny, the undisputed, the predator who knows only prey. I sit atop the food chain and I am lonely. I have no challengers. I have no competitors. I have no peers. There is none like, none other than the one and only soap man in the house. We are in the second book of Samuel. Folks, let's just jump right off into it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Son of a Preacher Man proudly presents the second book of Samuel, part 10, The Curse. Now, my mama would be real upset with me. No doubt when she see this, she gonna be real upset with me because, look at me for a minute, she don't think it's a curse. I told her, I said, Mama Soap Man, you the type of person you need them to say the word curse in order for you to acknowledge that it is therein a curse. This man got cursed last episode. He said the sword, Nathan said, thus saith the Lord, the sword will never leave your house. It's a curse. Come on, Mama Soap Man, it's a curse. The sword will never leave your house. That's like a haunting. That's like a haunting spirit. It's a curse. Leave me a comment in the comment section, folks. Let me know if you agree with your boy Soap Mizzle or Soap Mama Mizzle. 2 Samuel chapter 13 verses 1 through 6, and it reads, and it came to pass after this, that Absalom, the son of David, had a fair sister whose name was Tamar, and Amnon, the son of David, loved her. And Amnon was so vexed that he fell sick for his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin. And Amnon thought it hard for him to do anything to her. But Amnon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shemaiah, David's brother. And Jonadab was a very subtle man, and I have this in big, bold, red print. Jonadab, it says, was a very subtle man. And he said unto him, why art thou, being the king's son, lean from day to day? Wilt thou not tell me? And Amnon said unto him, I love Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister. And Jonadab said unto him, lay thee down on thy bed, and make thyself sick. And when thy father cometh to see thee, say unto him, I pray thee, let my sister Tamar come and give me meat, and dress the meat in my sight, that I may see it, and eat it at her hand. And so Amnon lay down and made himself sick. And when the king was come to see him, Amnon said to the king, I pray thee, let Tamar my sister come, and make me a couple of cakes in my sight, that I may eat at her hand. So folks, we got to introduce a couple characters into this story. First, we have Absalom. I almost said Amnon. Absalom is the first character I want to introduce into this story. And what you'll later learn is that Absalom is absolutely beautiful. No homo, nothing against homosexuals, but he is thought to have been a gorgeous man. The Bible talks about how there was not a lock of his hair out of place. We gonna get to all that, but we're just introducing, I think he's David's third oldest son, Absalom, okay? And just take my word for it. This dude is Fabio, okay? This dude, in modern day time, he'd be doing all the head and shoulder commercials, all the Dinerex. commercial. Pantene, Vidal Sassoon. He'd be doing this dude. And I guess his hair was his greatest feature. But this dude was bad, okay? This dude was Baywatch bad. Absalom, David's third oldest boy. And this lets you know that he came from a beautiful stock. David was said to have been a beautiful man. So his son Absalom, naturally, taken after his father or his mom, which I'm pretty sure David had the most beautiful women in the land. His son was a gorgeous man. But what I'm emphasizing to you is Absalom was probably the most well put together human being on the planet. That's Soap Man's opinion. The Bible don't say that, but that's what I get from what the Bible says. We'll get to that later. But as for now, we got David's third oldest son, and his name is Absalom. And he's got pretty righteous hair. Pretty righteous head of hair on that man, Absalom. Absalom has a sister named Tamar. Now, I don't know if this is his twin sister, but by all accounts, she's beautiful also. So Tamar is the second character I want to introduce into this episode. Absalom's sister. The sight to see, the beautiful Tamar. Now the third person I want to introduce, I don't have a slide of. His name is Amnon. He's David's oldest son, and I have reason to believe Amnon is a problem child. And so I'll get to that later why I think that, okay? I'll get to that, I think, by the end of this episode, if not by the next episode. But Amnon is a problem child. I think so, and I'll let you know why. So it's one final character that I want to introduce, and that's Jonadab. Did I get that name right? Let me make sure. Jonadab. Jonadab. Okay, so Absalom and Amnon are half brothers. David is the father of both Absalom and Amnon, but they have different mothers, okay? I think Absalom is David's son by the woman from the Geshurites, and I forgot, Amnon may be, I'm not sure whose son he is. Anyway, so Absalom and Amnon are half brothers. Both of them are David's sons, and they are half brothers. And they have a cousin named Jonadab. And Jonadab is a very peculiar character to the Soap Man, because the Bible says, and Jonadab was a very subtle man, and that resonates with Soap Man, because Soap Man too is a very subtle individual. So I can relate. Jonadab really sticks out to me. He's crafty. He's crafty, little weasel of a man. Now, I don't know if he's a weasel of a man, but he's definitely crafty. When the Bible gives you props on something, you can put a stamp on it. This dude, Jonadab, had the cleverness and the craftiness that ran through the bloodline of David. What was one of David's specialities? He was crafty, he was clever, thinking outside the box. And Jonadab, who is the cousin of David's sons, is that way. The Bible says he's a very subtle man. And Jonadab comes to his cousin Amnon. He says, dude, what's wrong with you? Why you looking so gangly? He says, you've been looking lean day to day, like you ain't been eating. What's wrong? What's going on? You not gonna tell me? And Amnon, David's oldest son, gives up the goods. He says, I'm in love with my sister, my half-sister, my half-brother Absalom's sister. I'm in love with her to the point it's making me sick. Physically, it's making me sick. This man wanted his sister so bad. I know. Don't think the grossness is lost on me. This man so badly wanted to sleep with his sister that it physically had him bedridden. So Jonadab, this crafty cousin, he comes with this idea. He says, use it to your advantage. Play sick, or at least sicker than you are. Tell your father to have her come feed you, and you'll have a chance to be alone with her. And so that's exactly what Amnon does. He plays sick. When his father comes to see him, he says, have Tamar come tend to me and cook for me and feed me. And so 2 Samuel chapter 13 verses 7 through 14 reads, then David sent home to Tamar, saying, go now to thy brother Amnon's house and dress him meat. So Tamar went to her brother Amnon's house, and he was laid down. And she took flour and kneaded it, and made cakes in his sight, and did bake the cakes. And she took a pan and poured them out before him. But he refused to eat. And Amnon said, have out all men from me. And I have that in big, red, bold print. He says, Amnon says, have out all men from me. All the men get out. And they went out every man from him. And Amnon said unto Tamar, bring meat into the chamber, that I may eat of thine hand. And Tamar took the cakes which she had made, and brought them into the chamber to Amnon her brother. And when she had brought them unto him to eat, he took hold of her, and said unto her, come lie with me, my sister. And she answered him, nay, my brother. And I have this in big, bold, red print. This is her answer to Amnon's advances. She says, nay, my brother, do not force me, for no such thing ought to be done in Israel. Do not thou this folly. This folly, she calls it. This humiliation beyond humiliation. This grievous sin. Do this not. She says, and I, whither shall I cause my shame to go? And as for thee, thou shalt be as one of the fools in Israel. A harsh rebuke indeed. And it goes on to say, now therefore I pray thee, speak unto the king, for he will not withhold me from thee. Howbeit, he would not hearken unto her voice. And I have in big bold red print, but being stronger than she, forced her and lay with her. And the music went out just as I said that for a reason. Let's recap. Amnon plays sick. He takes his cousin Jonadab's advice and plays sick. He tells his father to send him his half-sister, Tamar, his half-brother Absalom's sister. Send Tamar to my house to tend to me and feed me while I'm sick. David agrees, gives the command for his daughter Tamar, go see about your brother. She innocently goes to do as her father says. Amnon hatches his plot. He tells all the men, all his men servants, leave, get out, leave me and my sister alone. He tells his sister, bring the cakes or whatever you didn't bake, because he didn't refuse to eat up until this point, but he tells her to bring the food into the bedchamber. When she gets into the bedchamber, well, pay close attention to the illustrations I've provided for you. Because YouTube don't like certain words. And so we don't want to get in trouble and get no whooping from YouTube. Now, if you don't know this story, maybe you can pretend like you don't know where this is going. Amnon calls his sister, who he's been sick in bed over, sick from lust and desire for his own sister. And now he has her all alone in his house, in his room, and she brings the food into his bedchamber. And he takes a hold of her and he says, come lie with me, my sister. she rebukes him harshly. She says, Amnon, do not do this. Don't do this foolishness, this folly. Don't be known as the biggest fool in Israel. This should never happen. And the Bible says that he does not listen. And so what happens, next, really don't need to be said, but I've provided the illustration for you in case you don't get it. We'll say it in a nice way. He lures his sister Tamar, Amnon, David's oldest son, after luring his sister Tamar, his half-sister Tamar, into his bedchamber. He grabs a hold of her and asks her permission to sleep with him. When she rebukes him, well, YouTube don't like certain words, so we'll just say he took it. The Bible says, being stronger than her, he forced her. So we'll just use the Bible's words. He forced himself upon her. But we all know what the real word is. No, we don't have to say it. But anybody older than 12 know the real word I'm talking about. It rhymes with grapes. And ladies and gentlemen, no other word will do. It's so fitting. It's so fitting a word. If it hurts to hear, it's because that's proof of its accuracy in defining the act. But for peace sake, and to follow the rules of the realm, we'll say he forced himself upon her. 2 Samuel chapter 13, verses 15 through 22 reads, Then Amnon hated her exceedingly, so that the hatred wherewith he hated her was greater than the love wherewith he had loved her. And Amnon said unto her, Arise, be gone. And she said unto him, There is no cause. This evil in sending me away is greater than the other thou didst unto me. But he would not hearken unto her. Then he called his servant that ministered unto him and said, Put now this woman out from me, and bolt the door after her. And she had a garment of diverse colors upon her, for with such robes were the king's daughters that were virgins apparelled. Then his servant brought her out and bolted the door after her. And Tamar put ashes on her head, and rent her garment of diverse colors that was on her, and laid her hand on her head, and went on crying. And Absalom, her brother, said unto her, Hath Amnon thy brother been with thee? But hold now thy peace, my sister. He is thy brother. Regard not this thing. So Tamar remained desolate in her brother Absalom's house. But when King David heard of all these things, he was very wroth. And I have in big bold red print. And Absalom spake unto his brother Amnon, neither good nor bad. For Absalom hated Amnon, because he had forced his sister Tamar. Let's unpack this for clarity's sake. After forcing himself upon his half-sister, Amnon puts his half-sister Tamar out. After having his way with her, he promptly dismisses her. He tells her, get out. She says to him, you doing me like this by telling me to get out? This is the reason. Let me explain why she's reacting the way she's reacting. Because the proper thing for Amnon to do at this point would be to marry his sister. She was a virgin, and Amnon took her virginity. Who's going to want damaged goods? She's the king's daughter. She is a valuable asset. You can marry her off to the son of one of your enemies and bring about peace. But now her brother Amnon has ruined her. She's damaged goods. Not even the common man is going to want her. So the proper thing for Amnon to do, according to the customs of the time, would be to marry his sister. But by putting her out, he's just leaving her blowing in the wind. No one will ever want her. She told him before he forced himself upon her, she says, you don't have to do this way. Surely the king, our father, the king, will not refuse me. If you ask him for me as a wife, he will give me to you, and I won't object. Just don't do it this way. But Amnon didn't listen. He took his sister's virginity, and then he says to her, get out. And she says to him, by putting me away, you've done me worse than what you've just done to me when you forced yourself upon me. This is worse than you forcing yourself upon me, you putting me out. You must take me in marriage. You can't do me like this. Imagine that, people. You begging the person who just took advantage of you in the most worst way. You need that person to now marry you, to spare you shame and to spare you from bringing shame upon your family. I'm just explaining to you, that's how the times was back then. That is why Tamar is telling her brother Amnon, by doing me this way and sending me away and not marrying me, by forcing yourself upon me and taking my maidenhood, my virginity, no other man is going to want me. You must marry me, and you just gonna kick me to the curb. So it's the work Amnon does. He ruins Tamar's life. Is basically what he does. He calls his servant. He's like, I'm not trying to hear all that jibber jabber. He tells his servant, put her out and bolt the door behind her. Folks, and if you don't know what bolt the door behind her mean, that means just in case she try to come back. This woman had clothing of diverse colors. She ripped it up. It meant nothing anymore. She came to that house a virgin, a maiden, and a daughter of the king, and she left there with absolutely no value. Like a dirty diaper kicked to the kizerb, like Amnon knew Taekwondo. But Tamar means something to somebody. She goes to her brother Absalom, and immediately Absalom knows somebody been messing with his sister. And Absalom don't waste no time. He says, hey, what's wrong with you? Have Amnon thy brother been with you? He asked. He says, don't trip. That ninja. In case you don't understand this slide, YouTube don't like certain words. So we call them ninjas. And Absalom, when he finds out what Amnon's done to his sister, he exclaims, Ninja. Ninja. Who does this ninja think he is? I love this slide that I've put up for you right here. I absolutely love it. Look at Absalom telling his sister. He got his finger to his lips. He says to her, don't trip. Don't trip. He tells her. I love Absalom for this. Let's go back to his exact words. He says, and Absalom, her brother, said unto her, hath Amnon thy brother been with thee? But hold now thy peace, my sister. He is thy brother. Regard not this thing. It says, so Tamar remained desolate. Where? In her brother Absalom's house. It says, but when King David heard of all these things, he was very wroth. Not Absalom. It says, and Absalom spake unto his brother Amnon neither good nor bad. For Absalom hated Amnon because he had forced his sister Tamar. So this slide I've provided to you of Absalom, I had to go high and low to get the right slide, to get it without, all the copyright stuff on it. And so I love this slide. I don't know if Absalom is Tamar's older brother or younger brother, but I love that he's looking out for his sister. Somebody loves Tamar. Somebody ain't taking it too kindly what Amnon did to Tamar. Somebody wants some get back. He tells Tamar, he says, don't trip. Hold thy peace. And even though King David is upset and Absalom is upset too, the Bible says he hates his brother Amnon for what he did to his sister. He hates him. But he doesn't show it. And he tells his sister, don't you show it. And the Bible says he speaks neither good nor evil of his brother Amnon. Now, folks, I talked about a peculiarity, whatever. I talked about how Jonadab was peculiar to the soap man. But you see this vein of cleverness runs through David's bloodlines, whether it's his sons or his cousins or his brothers or his aunts and uncles. And it is something in David's bloodline. These people in this family are crafty as a fox. Real talk. Amnon tells his sister, be cool. Let me tell you, folks, from the soap man's experience, when somebody tell you, don't trip, I ain't worried about it, it's cool, it ain't cool. You should worry about it. You should trip. They're coming back. So it says 2 Samuel chapter 13 verses 23 through 29 reads, and it came to pass after 2 full years that Absalom had sheep shearers in Baal Hazor, which is beside Ephraim. And Absalom invited all the king's sons. And Absalom came to the king and said, behold now, thy servant hath sheep shearers. Let the king, I beseech thee, and his servants go with thy servant. And the king said to Absalom, nay, my son, let us not all now go, lest we be chargeable unto thee. And he pressed him, howbeit he would not go, but blessed him. Then said Absalom, if not, I pray thee, let my brother Amnon go with us. And the king said unto him, why should he go with thee? But Absalom pressed him, that he let Amnon and all the king's sons go with him. Now Absalom had commanded his servants, saying, Mark ye now when Amnon's heart is merry with wine. And when I say unto you, smite Amnon, then kill him. Fear not, have not I commanded you? Be courageous and be valiant. And the servants of Absalom did unto Amnon as Absalom had commanded. Then all the king's son arose, and every man got him up on his mule and fled. Let's break this down and unpack it for clarity's sake, of course. The Bible says after 2 full years, that's how long Absalom waits for revenge. That's how long Absalom waits to hatch his plan. And what his plan is to murder his older brother Amnon for forcing himself upon Absalom's sister Tamar, for taking her virginity and putting her away. Absalom couldn't sweep it under the rug, so he throws a party. And he invites all the king's sons. He invites his father. His father won't come, but blesses it, gives him his blessings. He said, well, if you won't come, command all my brothers come, especially Amnon. And it jumps out to David as peculiar. It raises an eyebrow with his father. He says, why should Amnon need to come? He says, but the Bible says, but Absalom pressed him and got him to agree. So they all show up at the party, and the Bible says now before the party, Absalom had already conspired with his servants. He says, mark the moment when when his heart is merry with wine. That's gonna be when the time to strike is near. And when I give the signal, he says, don't hesitate, kill him. He says, have I not permitted it? Have I not given you permission? No, he says, have I not commanded it? He said, don't fake no moves. Kill him. I got you covered. So they at the party, la-di-da-di, we likes to party, we don't start trouble, we don't bother nobody with just everybody getting a groove on, eating and drinking, reminiscing, joking. It's all good until it ain't. Because right when Amnon got his guard down, right when Amnon is relaxing, getting bubbly, right when the iron is hot, Absalom strikes. It's all good till it ain't. You see, Absalom got his boys with him. He brought the goon squad, and he had them all in place. And out of nowhere, the goons from the goon squad appeared. And it was all good until furniture started moving and chairs started flipping over. I like this slide. Look at this dude right here on the floor. He like, what the hell? Look at this dude like, oh. Look at Absalom. There you go, get him. Look at the boy back here about to shank him in the liver. Is that the right side? Yeah, that would be his liver. But this is a perfect depiction of how the party got turned up. This is the party getting turned out. Absalom turned the party out. He turned the party out. Yes, he did. Absalom, he got the knock if you buck up in that joint. The knives came out. It was all good till it wasn't. People eating and drinking and being merry. Next thing you know, somebody getting poked full of holes. ninja. I don't know what made Amnon think he was gonna get away with that. I don't know how he didn't see this coming. I don't blame Absalom. Big ups to Absalom, most props. He's the hero of the day defending his sister's honor. But I don't know what Amnon was thinking. I don't know what made him think that boy was not gonna come for him. 2 whole years he waited, and he executed. What's the word I'm looking for? Not successfully. He executed with precision. We'll just put it that way. 2 Samuel chapter 13 verses 30 through 36 reads, "And it came to pass while they were in the way, that tidings came to David, saying, Absalom hath slain all the king's sons, and there is not one of them left. Then the king arose and tare his garments, and lay on the earth, and all his servants stood by with their clothes rent. And Jonadab, the son of Shemaiah, David's brother, answered and said, Let not my lord suppose that they have slain. He says, not let, And it says, and Jonadab, the son of Shemaiah, David's brother, answered and said, Let not my lord suppose that they have slain all the young men, the king's son. For Amnon only is dead. For by the appointment of Absalom, this hath been determined from the day that he forced his sister Tamar. Now therefore let not my lord the king take the thing to his heart, to think that all the king's sons are dead. For Amnon only is dead. But Absalom fled. And the young man that kept the watch lifted up his eyes and looked and said, And the young man that kept the watch lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there came much people by the way of the hillside behind him. And Jonadab said unto the king, Behold, the king's sons come. As thy servant said, so it is. And it came to pass as soon as he made an end of speaking that, behold, the king's sons came, and lifted up their voice and wept. And the king also and all his servants wept very sore. 2 Samuel chapter 13 verses 37 through 39 reads, But Absalom fled and went to Talmai, the son of Ammihud, king of Geshur. Yeah, so Absalom was David's wife of the Geshurites. It says, But Absalom fled and went to Talmai, the son of Ammihud, king of Geshur. I think that's supposed to be Geshur, G-E. It must have been a spell check. I think it's the Geshurites. The king of, so let me start from the beginning. But Absalom fled and went to Talmai, the son of Ammihud, king of Geshur. And David mourned for his son every day. So Absalom fled and went to Geshur and was there 3 years. And the soul of King David longed to go forth unto Absalom, for he was comforted concerning Amnon, seeing he was dead. This is why I say Amnon was a problem child. This last line, let me read it again. Let me just read this whole thing again. It says, let me start from right here. It says, So Absalom fled and went to Geshur and was there 3 years. And the soul of King David longed to go forth unto Absalom. He misses his son. It says, For he was comforted concerning Amnon, seeing he was dead. That's why I say I believe Amnon was a problem child. It says David was, dare I say, glad he was gone. But anyways, Absalom flees back to his mother's people, the Geshurites. He goes back to his mother's side of the family and he hides out for 3 years. So that's a total of 5 years since the act of what happened to his sister. And we're going to pick up next episode and see what transpires after Absalom's exile. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the part of the episode where I thank you for joining me for this episode of Son of a Preacher Man. If you got any questions, comments, compliments, or insults, leave them in the comments section. Let me know in the comments section if you think David was cursed by Nathan or not. If you team Soap Man's mama or if you team Soap Man. Okay? If you got any flirtatious messages that you want to send me, I'll take them. If you got any donations you want to donate, I'll take those too. If not, I'll see you next time. Same soap time, same soap channel. Soap Man out.